So we now turn to the next item in our agenda, and we are basically going to have an opportunity to talk about the Columbia River crossing. So I'd like to invite our panel members to join us. Thank you very much. Thanks. Good. Nice to see you. Thanks. Thanks very much. We've been very privileged today to have a very star-studded panel to talk about this topic. And we have with us Senator Bruce Starr, Senator Lee Beyer, Representative Cliff Bentz, Representative Tobias and Representative Tina Kotek. So hello and welcome. And I'm going to join you for these questions. So since the bridge is in your district, and you've lived with the controversy and discussion about the bridge for a long time, can you tell us what your views are on how you think it will impact your district?
Well, as John has said, the I-5 replacement project entirely rests in House District 44, North and Northeast Portland, Marine Drive Interchange, Hayden Island, the entry into the bridge into Washington. I think when you have a project this size, we have to remember that it has an impact on the people who live there. We'll hear about freight and other things, and I just want to talk briefly about what it means for the folks in my district. If you live in North Portland and you've ever been stuck when the bridge is up, you understand how it could, it's a complete standstill in North Portland when the bridge is up. And depending on what time of day it happens, it could be hours before traffic corrects itself and begins moving again. It's one of the most congested areas in the state. Huge amount of safety issues in that corridor. Twice the number of collisions in the 5-mile impact area compared to similar urban roadways. There are short lanes for acceleration, lots of interchanges, lots of weaving. There are no shoulders, no safety shoulders on the bridge. So from strictly a safety standpoint, we have to do something. If you look at the seismic consequences of that bridge, parts of the bridge built in different times, wooden pilings resting not on bedrock, they would have to go 130 feet further to be resting on rock. In the case of a big earthquake, the structure would fail, which would not only impact the folks in my area, but the entire region, the entire state. So it is really about livability. The air pollution issues in my district when traffic is stopped is huge. So this is not just about moving things, this is about the livability of a large number of people who live in my district. And I'm very committed to this bridge. We need to do this for a whole host of reasons, but I think we can never forget this is really about the people who live in that area as well.
Thank you very much. That's a very, very concise description of the impacts on your district. So let me turn to Representative Reed, Representative Bentz, and Senator Beyer. You've been chairs of the Oversight Committee for this past year, and you studied the process, looked at the alternatives, and examined the financing plan. What have you learned in the process, and do you believe it's very important to build this bridge?
I certainly do. I think the real value of the oversight panel, and we have to thank the presiding officers for giving us the chance to do it, was that it gave the legislature the opportunity to really understand how complex this project is, how important it is, and all the work that has gone on over the last decade plus to get us to this point. There are obviously some details yet to be worked out and refined, but I think the good news is that there's increasing consensus amongst the Oversight Committee recognizing how important the project is and that we need to go forward with it. And I'm most excited by the fact that there's a bipartisan, bicameral representation here on the stage and in the Oversight Committee that gives us, I think, a real chance to build on the traditions of Oregon and creativity, collaboration, and innovation to build a project that's going to have a huge impact on the state, and I'm confident that we can do it.
Thank you, Representative Bentz.
Thank you, John, and thanks for this opportunity to talk about this important project. I was not necessarily supportive of the project when I started as co-chair of the committee. So I appreciated the opportunity to learn more about it. And as the year went by and the hearing after discussion, it became more and more apparent that there was an absolute need for the bridge. What's interesting, being from Ontario, is that many of my constituents support the bridge. And they do so because when you're from a small community like mine, covered by a vast area, which is most of the eastern half of the state, you only have one road home. And if the bridge is washed out, you're in real trouble. So we understand the value of infrastructure, and we understand the necessity of moving forward when the opportunity presents. Because we, of course, rely upon other people's money to help us fund our projects. And thus, when we see Portland needing the, support, we're going to step up and we're going to help. It also doesn't hurt that we're 400 miles away and we won't have to pay the toll. So I'll just admit it. But I don't want to overemphasize the fact that this bridge must happen without mentioning the fact that there are many more things to address. Tough issues that I'm sure we can resolve, but they have to be resolved before we can go forward. And I know from working with my co-chairs, we'll be doing that. So appreciate this opportunity, John.
And Senator Beyer?
Well, I think we've learned a couple of things. One is you'll hear some criticisms in the media, particularly about, we haven't looked at all of the options enough. And people need to understand that we've been looking at the options collectively as a state since 1995. So there's very few rocks that haven't been turned over to get to the decision that's in front of the legislature this time. Secondly, there are two big reasons why the bridge is important. One is safety, and that has two components. One, there's a number of wrecks on the bridge now, and we need to fix that for just public safety. The second piece of the public safety is, without a doubt, we know that when that earthquake happens, and it's not a matter of if, it's when, that bridge will not stand. It absolutely is not safe, so we've got that issue to fix with that. The second reason, big reason, is the economic. Oregon and Washington, for that matter, are predominantly exporting states. Most of those goods, most of the commerce of this state goes across that bridge one way or the other. It is vital to our economy, the whole state, not just the metro area, but the whole state, that work. Keep in mind that that is the economic link from the Canadian border to the Mexican border, and it's the only place where you essentially have a drawbridge. And it doesn't work a lot. We heard a lot from Oregon industry about how much money they spend with their trucks delayed on that bridge and how much it costs an hour. So it's important to the economy that we build it. And I guess the last point I'd add is the numbers, when you see them in the paper, sound like a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But if you look at it in terms of what the potential impact will be on each individual Oregonian who's going to benefit from that in some way, it's fairly small. And the fact that if we act now, we are in the queue to get over a third of the project paid for by the federal government. And that probably will not last very long. We probably have a short window to get in and do that. So it's imperative that the bridge be built. It's imperative that we make a decision soon on that and move forward.
As one of those voices of industry that talks about how important that bridge is to our business, it's clearly something that we think is very important to get done for trade reasons, among other things. The other element that I think you've all touched on, but may deserve a little more emphasis, is the timing point. And Senator, you just pointed out that there's a window of opportunity for federal funding, but it's also a window of opportunity for financing, because interest rates are historic lows, and it is very unlikely that that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. So with that, let me turn to Senator Starr, who has been at the point of many of these infrastructure projects and programs over the years. Put this one in perspective. What is it going to take to get it done?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very optimistic. As I listen to my colleagues here, you look at the depth and breadth of legislative experience of the legislators that are leading this fight in the legislature. I believe we've got what it takes to get the job done. So let me just start with that. None of this happens in the legislature because of one person. It is a team effort. I also have to comment that having a governor that makes it a priority is important. As you look historically over the last decade, the investments that we've made in this state. We've had governors that have been supportive, have helped to lead the charge, and that's important. Having Governor Kitzhaber supportive, championing this project, I can't overemphasize how important that is. However, there is a legislative process, and I'm a big believer in letting that process work. It'll be a bipartisan effort. The coalition has to be wide and broad and deep. I believe that exists in this case. Historically, as you look at the failures in the past, failures have occurred because we haven't brought everybody together. We haven't brought everybody on board. We've had, the historic wars between AAA and the truckers, for instance. Those wars, I believe, have been put to bed. And as you look at moving forward, having business and labor, having the automobiles, truckers, and even the transit advocates all working together is really important. In addition to that, for this particular project, the challenge that we will have is to ensure that legislators that are outside of the northwest corner of our state, legislators that are down the Willamette Valley in southern Oregon, legislators that are in central and eastern Oregon, understand how this project is critical, not just to the Portland metropolitan area or businesses that are located here, but it's important to the economy of the entire state. And that's where the attendees here can make a really significant difference in communicating to legislators throughout the state that this piece of infrastructure is critically important to the long-term health and economic success of Oregon as a whole. But I want to reemphasize that I'm really optimistic. We've got a great team. We've got great leadership. I believe we've got a good story to tell. There's no question there's some challenges yet in front of us, but you look at the experience that we've amassed both on both sides of the river and our DOTs and those that are working on this, we will meet those challenges, and I believe we will build this bridge.
Thank you very much, Senator. It's very important to note that, as always the case, the bridge has two ends. And on the other side of the river, we have been blessed with many partners in the Washington political and business groups that have helped build the coalition and build the support for this bridge. One of the members of this coalition, and one of the people who has been key for us, is the United States Senator Patty Murray. As chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee Subcommittee on Transportation, she will play a critical role in financing the project. While she was not able to be with us here today, she did agree to provide us a short video, which we are about to put up if technology permits.
This Leadership Summit sponsored by the Oregon Business Council as you discuss the Columbia River crossing. As I understand, my colleagues Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley participated earlier today, and I look forward to hearing the insight they provided. And I appreciate the attendance of Mayor Leavitt from Vancouver. Tim has been a great leader on replacing the I-5 bridge over the Columbia River, and I want to thank him for all his efforts and for being a real partner of mine. I know you are all eager to hear from Governor Kitzhaber, but I'd like to briefly express the importance of and my strong support for building a bridge between our states. As many of you know, I have a long history with this project. I began working on this issue with Senator Hatfield back in the early 90s. Replacing the I-5 bridge is critical to the economic well-being of our region, our two states, and frankly, the country. We are trade-dependent states, and we need to have the ability for goods to flow freely. Of course, there have been bumps along the way, and there may be some more, but the CRC is nearly ready to move forward to construction, and we must continue pushing to finish this project. Few regions are as poised for economic growth as this one. We have the workforce that many are jealous of, the business leadership that knows how to grow businesses here at home, and leading higher education institutions and universities charging ahead with innovation and job-creating efforts. We have close ties to Asian markets and a strong port partners that are seeing record growth and expansion. All this is built on a great combination of affordable housing and a high quality of life, including some of the cheapest power in the country, which has led to our two states being economic powerhouses. The list doesn't end there. For example, together we have partnered on both sides of the river to ensure we have increased access to rail and river transportation options. But the future of our economic success largely depends on where we go with this project. And if we can address the needs of commuters, freight, businesses, and families on both sides of the river, now is the time to move forward and address our infrastructure needs. Now is the time to build the new bridge, including the light rail component. Let me be clear, without light rail, we all know this project will not be built. So you have my commitment as chair of the Senate Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Subcommittee to continue fighting for the New Start's funding necessary to make this project a reality. And I know we have a champion in Oregon in Governor Kitzhaber. He understands how the I-5 bridge is a catalyst that will create thousands of jobs and prepare the region for job growth in the future. I look forward to continuing to work with Governor Kitzhaber, the Oregon delegation, and of course all of our partners in Washington State to move forward and not only break ground, but get the bridge built. Thank you again for allowing me to speak today, and enjoy the remainder of your summit.
It's great. So we'd like to thank our legislative panel, we'd like to thank Senator Murray, and we'd like to get the bridge built. So thank you all very much. Thanks. Thanks. Thanks.